18 version and ITIL version 4. My name is Umut Kılıç. Right now, because of the health issues are restricting our travel habits, I'm still in Turkey. But for my professional life, for about 16 or 17 years, I was working at the IT service provider environments, and I was sitting at the audited or management system executing part of organizations. And for approximately 5 years, I just changed the side of the table, and here I am auditing and giving trainings and also providing consulting services to companies about ISO 20000, 27001 and 22301. Service management system, information security management system, and business continuity management system. Today's topic is mostly about, as I told you, about the new version of ISO 20K. The most important difference between the older version was the risk analysis approach. So based on the limited time limit of this webinar, we are not going to talk about in depth for all the articles of 20K, but instead of this, we are going to talk about the most likely risk analysis and risk analysis approach of this new version and related ITIL-based processes, which ISO 20K is keeping mandatory for all companies to comply with. So we are going to talk about ISO 20K new version. After that, we are going to talk about how we are going to execute a risk analysis based on 20K. And the last part of this webinar will be the ITIL-based processes, but not all of them. Some important one about the risk analysis, because as I told you before, the time limit is keeping my hands tied about talking about all the processes. So if we had any time, you can raise any questions, but also you can send any questions of yours by the chat window of Zoom. And if you are kind enough to add your email addresses, I will be reply your questions as soon as possible, as based on the other experiences, I know that the webinar is going to take the exact time for the slides you are going to witness. So let's start with ISO 20K 2018 version and HLS, which is high level structure. The high level structure means most of the standards which recently taken update is one, getting and risk management point of view, and two, most of the articles of standards are going to be the same, but the differences is created between the risk analysis and how to handle risks. So in that slide, the boxes red are the articles for each different high-level structure-based standards common points. The gray boxes are the service management system specialized articles of the standard. And the most important part is the Article 8 operation of the service management system, or in short, SMS. And most of the time we are going to speak about the operation. So most of the other standards based on HLS structure is somehow asking companies for the, based on the Article 4, asking the companies to get an approach how they are going to score their risks. And after that, the Article 8 is giving the authority or the freedom for companies to how you are going to handle these risks. But the difference of SMS, difference of 20,000 is there is no freedom or there is no choice for companies about how to handle the risks. The 20,000K version 2018 says that if you had a risk, you have to handle them with the exact processes I'm defining right now on the Article 8. So this is the most difference. Although all of them are based on HLS, high-level structure, this is the main difference between 20,000 and other standards. So we are going to talk about mostly the gray boxes today. As I told you before, it is very hard for me to complete a training in depth for every article. So in order to speak about everything in a common understanding, we have to talk about some important terms, not all, but some important ones, which is specialized for 20,000K. For example, a service is a tool to provide value to customer, but not the customer, also all related parts. And the related part is going to be explained in a couple of slides. Service is a tool to provide value to customers by customers' easy access and also keeping the customers free of any risks. So, for example, if you are running an ATM business, so you have to keep your core banking application to speak with the ATM. You have to be sure that there is enough banknotes in the ATM. You have to be sure that your database admins or your network admins are working, your servers are up, and also if any mechanical failures happen in the ATM, this means your field operation crew or your subcontractor has to go there and fix the malfunction of ATM, but none of them are the concern of a customer of yours because you are providing a service to them, which providing value to your customer by giving the money whenever he or she wants. So also one of the most common changes in approach ITIL and ISO 20000K is also the meaning of which companies are going to be considered as a service provider. Yes, likely ITIL is the short version of IT infrastructure library, and the 20K versions are created based on ITIL. But if you look at that, if you look at another point of view, for example, a pizza delivery company is also providing service. The service they're providing is to delivering you a hot pizza with the cheese you wanted on the pizza and to deliver it in 30 minutes maximum time. So they are their service level commitments to you, which we are going to speak in a couple of slides. So all the service providers are providing value to their customers with taking the customers free of the unnecessary risks. Actually can be talked about somehow as service provider. So it can be talk about ISO 20000 to comply with them as well. Anyhow, speak about the important terms. Risk is an impact of uncertainty. This is a definition, a textbook definition of risk, but in the next 2 or 3 slides, I think we are going to speak about the interested parties of company in order to running ISO 200K. So allow me to speak about the risk in this slide, which is going to be more explanatory way for you. Also the assets and the configuration items, sorry for writing assets double times. And assets and configuration items are 2 related terms. So an asset is a potential or actual value of something which you are running it in order to operate the SMS. But the configuration is an asset which it is under control. So what I mean by under control, for example, you got 2 services providing to your customers, and let's say 5 servers are running for them. So these servers are the assets for you to provide services to your customers. But not in any given time, you cannot say which server is running for which service. So this is an attribute for any asset of yours. So the name of the service is an attribute to the asset, which is a server. So if it is unable you to control the service asset relationship, just for this example, it's important for you to, for example, how to charge back your services, because you don't know which service is working for which server. So it is impossible for you to make a business impact plan. You don't know the relationship between the service and the services. So it's impossible for you to know if the service is going to be dead, if one of these servers are going down. So a configuration item is an asset which is controlled by change management system or change management flows real time in order to provide you necessary information about itself and its attributes. The attributes can be, is it up or down, which service it is related, or what is the RAM of any given server, or what is the configuration of any firewall. So whatever you want to manage, it can be considered as an configuration item, regardless it is something soft, something hypothetical, or something hard. For example, a hardware can be considered as a configuration item. A software can be considered as a configuration item, or the availability value you are committing yourself can be a configuration item. And if you somehow manage to control these attributes and the relationship within them, it's very likely for you to have the right pictures and get the right decisions about your services. So one of the changes of 2018 from the previous version, or the ITIL version 4 from the previous version, is the old versions are putting the configuration and change management to the very core of these management systems or best practices. The latest versions doing as well. It is fine, because as long as you are running smoothly more change flows, this means you are going to have more control and more accurate information about your assets' relations to each other. So this means you can run your, for example, capacity management, you can run your service level management, or you can run your business continuity management processes based on the real, actual, and true information. So if any of these change flows are missing or misrunning, this means you don't have the correct information, and it's impossible for you to run these other processes correctly. But if you're working in a big environment, thousands or maybe tens of thousands of different assets and maybe hundreds of thousands of different attributes of them, it seems like very impossible for anyone to implement a 100% working change management process to keep every asset and attribute is under good control. But the older version of 2020K and ITIL is asking companies to do so, which is a little bit broken of encouragement. And so in order to make it working and in order to show some short-term wins, especially introducing the risk management point of view to high-level structure point, ISO 20K says, okay, you have to run a change management system. You have to run the change management system in order to keep your any configuration item or attribute information accurate and correct. But if you don't running a change management flow for any attribute of any CI, just write it down to your risk analysis, score it, and let your management team knew about the risk of not being controlled. And after that, you can create your service improvement plan for a month, 3 months, 6 months, or a year ahead of you. Your management is going to put the CIs or the attributes which are not controlled by change management system to be controlled by change management systems. So, for example, a risk of not having the name of service to the related server, lack of the change management of service name can be considered as a risk, because that's why you cannot make any financial forecasts, you cannot make any business impact analysis. So write it down to your risk analyst and say, we cannot make any financial forecast because we don't know about how the service and the services are related. So the management knows this one, and they are going to write it down as a commitment which says in the service implement plan, in 3 months, we are going to implement a change management flow in order to see which servers are under which services. And one other thing is the incident, of course, the unexpected interruption in a service or reduction in service quality, regardless it is noticed by customer or not. If your services are down, or your database is down, or for example, if you're a pizza delivery service, one of the motorcycles is not working for your couriers, this means an incident, an interruption of unexpected interruption of service quality. Also, let me speak about these two important terms, and after that we are going to speak about the important articles of the standards, the availability and SLA. As a common understanding, maybe not in the countries who are native in English, but the other countries, most in Turkey, I saw this one. The letter A at the SLA is somehow confusing with the availability. So availability means a desired function of service is up in a agreed time frame, which can be based on different formulas, can be shown as a percentage. So our service is 99.5% is up for the last 3 months based on the 24/7 working hours and calculation of minutes. Okay, so this is an availability. But when you speak about service level agreement, this includes more than one kind of commitments other than the availability. So for example, if you are talking about a ATM service, your service level agreement says, okay, our ATMs are going to be available 99.5 based on the calculation of minutes. This is the formula. Okay, this is the one thing I'm committing to as a service level. Second thing is, if any ATM is not working, is malfunctioning, so we are going to go there and solve the problem in, I don't know, 2 days. This is a service level commitment. You say if your credit card is stuck in ATM, your credit card will be get to you by courier in 4 days. This is also a service level commitment to you. So all of these are in a combined service level agreement, which defines the commitment of service provider and the roles and responsibilities of the both sides. Both sides, I mean, because if the customer of yours is not going to call your call center or send an email to the correct email address, it's impossible for you to keep your commitments about the time limit of your problem solving. So the responsibilities are mutual, and it has to be written on service level agreement. For example, again, as a pizza service delivery company, your SLA is going to consist, okay, I'm going to keep my call center 24/7 open, and you are going to take your pizza now in 30 minutes, and the temperature of your pizza is not going to be lower than, I don't know, some centigrades. But these are your service level commitments, and this is your service level agreement, but not the availability. So most of the time, I am hearing in, again, not natively English-speaking countries, that we give the customer a SLA of 99.5%. No, it is one of the agreements, but it is not the whole agreement. It is the availability. Okay, After that, we can now start to talk about important articles of ISO 20K. As I told you, it's impossible for us to speak everything in enough depth in this 1 hour time limit of our webinar. So let me talk about, first of all, determining the needs and expectations of related parties. First of all, this is a very important article, actually. So in my very early days of working as a junior in management systems, it seemed like to me a paperwork, writing down some related parties, which is obviously comes like, okay, customers, the law enforcement, blah, blah. But the point is, writing down the needs and expectations of all parties is going to be a crucial fundamental for your risk management to be executed correctly. For example, first of all, let me speak about the internal and external parties of yours, all right? You want to keep your external party, the customer, happy, and the expectation of the customer is, for example, getting the Pizza Hut in 30 minutes or getting the cash from ATM in, I don't know, 10 seconds. But there are some other related parties you have to make happy, like your subcontractors. Because if you don't pay them on time based on their invoices, they can cease giving you service, which create in the eyes of the customer of yours, this is the cease of quality of the providing the services provided by you. Also, your employees are a related internal party, because if you didn't back up them, especially for these times, if one of them is going to be sick and not able to perform his duty, for example, your database admin is sick and no one's there for you to run the queries in order to understand a specific problem of ATM. So you cannot fulfill an expectation of your interested parties in this case based on the service level agreement solving the problem in 5 minutes, let's say. So if you don't think your database admin as an internal related part, and if you don't indicate the expectation of this related part as having a health insurance or having the backup man or a backup company, so when he is not going to be sitting in his chair, you cannot this time meet an expectation of an external party. So this is crucial. As I told you, I'm going to speak about the definition of risk in a couple of slides. This is the slide, actually. The textbook definition of risk is the uncertainty of anything happens unlikely, something like that. I'm not memorizing it because it is not logical for me. The logical definition for me of the risk is the possibility of something happen which makes you not to fulfill any expectation of related parties. So for the Article 4.2, if you cannot determine the detailed related parties, internal and external, and write down their more than one expectations, you cannot think not to meeting these expectations as a risk, and you cannot take the necessary precautions. The precautions are going to be told about the Article 8. All right, so continuing for this, let's say, important articles, because the Article 5 is about leadership, about some job descriptions of the personnel, but as I told you, because of the time limit of the webinar, with your excuse, I'm going to pass this once. So about the planning. The planning says, all right, you say you got your related parties, you all know what they are expecting, and you know what risks you can face, which makes you to not to meet these expectations, and how you are going to score these ones, and how you are going to approach these risks. So allow me to go a couple of slides All right, to see. All right. And so in Article 6, you have to write down the process and make it clear that throughout all your organization, how you are going to assess the risks, the responsibles, the formulas, the values, everything has to be written in this process for Article 6, which is, I'm going to give you a more simulated example in a couple of minutes. So after this simulation, I am quite sure about the points of this 6.2 and 6.3 will be understood by you better. So with your excuse, I'm going to continue and come back in to these articles again. So there is something called service planning. After the 6.1.3, I just jumped to the 8.2.2 because the word of planning is same in these articles, but of course there should be a difference between them. So here I am to understand. Here I am here to make you understand about the differences. The Article 6 planning is your process to write down how you are going to handle the risks, as I told you, and as I'm going to make you a simulation in a couple of slides. But the service planning, it's something like a service card, including everything about your services, like which customers you are going to provide the service, and what is the customer's expectations, and what is your infrastructure, what is your using technologies, how many people you are working, what is the processes which is going to be associated with any given service, or the objectives of yours, so you and non-limitations. For example, you got a service card, for example, giving cash from ATM service. So let's say the customer of this service is everybody with a valid bank card, valid cash withdrawal card, and the service depends on the ATM machine and the servers and the databases and a network. And we got our network line from British Telecom, and the backup line is taken from some other GSM operator. And the primary line is the hard line, but the secondary line is a 5G SIM card maybe. There are these 4 servers, these three firewalls, and these databases are related to the service. And the support of the service is given by a company named XYZ, and they are having their own call center. The numbers of this, for example, and the banknotes are going to be transferred by another company named ABC to the ATMs. And because of the severe weather conditions of City 1, City 2, and City 3, it's impossible for us to give them enough banknotes in any given 2 days of commitment in the winter months. This is a no limitation. So if you know about the limitations, the users, the infrastructure, the related parties, the subcontractors of your services by planning a service in a kind of service card, not especially a physical card, of course, all the processes you are going to execute in order to run an effective SMS is going to be in compliance with a service plan. So if you say a service of yours has to be up and running in a time of incident in, let's say, 10 minutes, if you write it down, it's impossible for you to implement an incident management process which is going to take 15 minutes. So the service planning and service card is very crucial for you. But as I told you, in order to know this, you have to know the exact related in and external parties and their expectations. And after that, you are creating your service plan. And after that, you are making your risk management assessment based on Article 6 and run this risk assessment to see if any of these services in yours is in stake just because a precaution is not appropriately taken. So this is your service catalog. You see, this is the catalog which the customers are seeing, and this is the catalog which a service provider is seeing. For example, different services serves a business process of your customer. Let's say this is the paying credit card debt, and this is withdrawal of cash services, and these services are going to be a business process like using an ATM machine to your customer. And after that, under these services, you are running your database service, which your related databases have to be up or down in any given time based on an availability committed, a network service. And after that, these services are running by your internal teams, which we are going to talk about in the upcoming slides. And maybe this is the cash delivery service, and this is the mechanical failure fixing service, and these are held by some different outsourced companies of yours. So everything is going to be related to service asset and configuration records. So based on this one, you know the relationship between every CI or the CIs you are controlling as an asset as we speak. And these configuration items are going to be linked as services known by you, and these are going to be merged by customer-facing services, and customer-facing services are merged as somehow expectations to be fulfilled. Okay, so right. Okay, so I told you about Article 6, and it has to include how you are going to complete your risk analysis in a service management point of view. So this is the flow, and this is after a couple of slides, we are going to see a simulation of this one. Of course, it's a hypothetical. So I think it's going to make you understand what has to be written in order to comply the request of Article 6 of the standard. So at the very beginning, you create the related parties, the contexts, internal and external contexts and related parties of your company, and write down its expectations. And after that, you are writing down a limitless risks in order to which they have a potential ability to you not to meeting the expectation of related parties. So you write down one risk. For example, your customer's expectation is to get a hot pizza in 30 minutes. So the risk number one is not delivering the pizza because of a broken motorcycle tire. So you write down this risk, you identify this risk. Or the second risk also can cause the same expectation not to be met. Your motorcycle is going to be out of fuel. So this is the risk number two for the same expectation not to be met. Risk number three is you've somehow run out of sausages. So you sent the pizza in 30 minutes, which is hot, but out of sausages, even though the customer is asking to get pizza with sausage. So here we spoke about three different risks in order to possibly having ability to not to make you meet the expectations. So after that, you are going to analyze this risk and score this one. Analyze means if this risk happens, first, how frequent this can be done. So it is going to be written down as probability. And if it is happened, how we are going to be affected as a failed service provider, and this is the effect. So you analyze it by giving the numbers, which I'm going to talk in a couple of minutes. After that, you use these numbers in a formula and get a scoring. And after the scoring, you apply risk controls, which are the ITIL-based processes which we are going to speak about. Okay, so you write down countless numbers of risks which can cause your commitments not to be met or the expectation of your customers. So one of them is, let's think about the broken tire risk of a motorcycle, which causes you not to meet the 30-minute commitment of yours. So in the process, which has to be written down for Article 6, needs what are these numbers are meaning. It doesn't have to be 5 times 5. You can use it 3 times 3. You can use it 4 times 6. It does not have to be square based. But in the process, you have to write it down. What does 1 means in probability? Let's say it can happen in every 5 years. 2 means it can happen in every 5 years, and 5 means it can happen daily basis. And the effect means when the risk is happen, if the effect of yours is losing your 1% of your customers, then the effect is going to be 1. And if this risk is happening, it's possible for you to lose, I don't know, 50% of your customers, then the number of effect will be 5. So the numbers, the scale, and the meaning of these numbers is entirely up to you. The standard is not forcing you to do anything about this one. And using these 2 numbers, you're running a formula, and after that you get a risk score. The formula is you are going to somehow use the effect and the probability. You can multiply them, you can add them, you can take the highest number. Again, it's up to you. But in here, you get your analysis, you put the values, you apply the formula to the values, and after that you get a score. So based on the formula and based on the values in here, you have a range of risk score. And in the process for the Article 6 of the standard, you have to write down a level of this scale, which defines as the probable risk level. So for example, using the numbers and using the formula, you get a risk scale minimum of 1 and the maximum of 100. You said that the every risk above the number of 60 is not tolerable for us, and we are going to implement an ITIL-based ISO 20K process in order to reduce this risk. Yes, so you identify the risks, you analyze them, you write down your actual controls, and after that you got a risk evaluation report. And the risks over the acceptable level, you are going to apply one of these 4 options, which have to be written in the process as an answer of yours to Article 6. The option avoid is you just make the conditions of this risk is creating unavailable. You just get rid of it. For example, if it is a risk for you to make your customers unhappy by not delivering them a pizza by motorcycle in 30 minutes, okay, then we are not going to deliver pizza anymore. We are going to make our customers happy in another way. So you avoid the risk. Or you can transfer the risk. You can make an outsource contract to a more faster courier company in order to send these pizzas in under 30 minutes. Or you can accept it. Let's say, okay, this is the business we are doing. This is the maximum number of motorcycles we can take, because if we are going to take more motorcycles, then it's going to be a not profitable operation for us. Or okay, it's okay for us to lose 1 customer in a case. So if the management is okay with the risk, this is the acceptance of the risk. And the last thing is written in red is control, which is the expectation of ISO 20K. If we're going to implement any controls this has to be implemented by exactly the processes defined in Article 8, which based on ITIL version 4 identified in the Article 8 of ISO 20K. But again, it is very hard for us to speak about all of these processes. And again, the main aim of this webinar is how you to implement the risk management point of view, a risk approach to your service management system based on ISO 20K's relation with high-level structure. All right, so now we can speak about the risk action processes. Let's think about from now on the processes related to the risk and the management and scoring like that. Okay, I'm going to continue with the pre-delivery service example. Okay, so the related parties if our customer, and our customer's expectation is get the pizza well under 30 minutes and hot, and a risk of not complying, not meeting this expectation is there are different risks, but one of them is being out of fuel for our motorcycles. The courier has to stop by a pumping station, and this means we are not meeting the 30 minutes of expectation. So why this is happening? Because you are not running an effective asset or configuration management to see which motorcycle is, which is also a CI in this point, which motorcycle has how many gallons of gas in this tank, and the gas is also a CI. So if I will be happy if I make my point clear about this management system and risk management point of view. So you know the expectation, you know how you can fail to meet it, and if it is related to asset management, so implement a better asset and configuration management. If it is related to change management, implement a better change management policy. If it is going to be related with BRM, then implement a better BRM. So it is beneficial for you to listen to the articles forthcoming with this point of view. So a configuration, and the organization has to ensure that all the assets which use to deliver services are managed. You know your assets, and after that, for the configuration management, you have to be sure about how these assets are going to be managed by change management service to keep all the attributes live, accurate. And also you have to write down the relationship between the CIs. So you know that, you know what happens if one of your motorcycles is going to run out of fuel, because you make the relationship between CIs. If you are going to run out of a CI fuel, your another CI motorcycle will not be running, so you are not going to meet the expectation. All the CIs shall be controlled, and the controls has to be made by the change management system. Because again, let me go around visa delivery service example. If you don't run a change management system for fuel, then it is impossible for you to know if the CI fuel tank is full or not, because you didn't start a refuel the motorcycle's fuel by gasoline. You didn't start this change management workflow, so you have no idea about if any given motorcycle has enough gasoline. So it's a risk for you to run out of fuel. So it's a risk for you to not meet the expectation of the company. Of the customers, sorry. So asset and configuration management means you know the exact situations, attributes, as many information as possible correctly to make you know better decisions and better perspective of your services. But again, as I told you, as a difference from the previous versions, the 20K and ITIL version 4 is asking for you to not running a change management system in order to be sure about all the attributes of all your assets. It is going to take enormous time. The standards is asking if you are not running a change management policy for any given asset, please write it down as a risk, and please write it down to eliminate this risk in your service improvement plan. For example, the risk is we are not running an effective change management policy in order to see which motorcycles tires are broken or not. So this is a risk. The definition of risk is not controlling the asset tire for the service. Okay, so write it down on the risk yours and score because you don't know this, so the probability of your tires with a broken is going to be high and the score of the risk is going to be high. So please score this risk, make sure that your management know this risk, and write it down what you are going to do to your service improvement plan, like by the signature of the upper management, of course. In 3 minutes, in 3 months, we are going to implement the change management policy for the situation of our tires of motorcycles in order to reduce the risk. So the change management policy says you have to write it down every different change flows for every different attribute of every different CI which you want to control. So in order to do that, you have to write down change flows and every different attribute, and there are different change flows. For example, changing a server's RAM has to be a different change flow, or opening a database server to intranet with the two-factor authentication identification verification system is another change. So you have to create change flows, and the CIs without change flows has to be evaluated on the risk analysis. So there are 3 different relations spoke in the 20K. One is business relationship management. Most of the time it is confused by service level management. In short, I'm going to call them as BRM and SLM. BRM is mostly, oh, by the way, they are 2 different hats, 2 different positions, but of course, if you're a small organization, you can merge these 2 into one person. That's fine. The BRM is most likely to your face of the customer. He is the one who is going to get in touch with the customer face-to-face, in real face-to-face or virtual way. And this guy is the one asking to the customers, are you happy? Is there anything we can do better for you? Are there any complaints? Or are you having any forecasts for any businesses or an expansion of yours? Because if you are going to create a new business, or if you are going to make an expansion of your business, then this is going to affect your expectations, and this is going to affect our ability to meet these expectations. So please let us know in advance for us to comply with you. So the BRM is somehow the backpacking guy, and they are the face of the company. But the SLM is somehow more technical point of view, looking to the relation. This position says, okay, if everything is running smoothly, related correctly, and working as planned, and as a whole, if you are going to able to meet the expectation of our customer. They are not facing most of the time to the customer if the roles are differentiated on different people. But to make you understand the relation between customer BRM and the SLM with a little bit cartoon. So for example, your customer is asking you to provide him a size of a bottle and an apple on a square table fabric. So if you are looking to the point of view of your service level manager, everything is fine. Your bottle is there as a CI, your apple is there as a CI, your box is there as a CI, and your square table fabric is there as a CI. They are related, they are touching to each other, so everything is running smoothly on a technical point of view from service level manager. But if your business relation manager failed to tell you that your customer is a giraffe, regardless of how your service level manager is doing his or her job perfectly, the only thing you are providing is a site of 2 circles and 9 squares to a customer which you don't know well, or you know well but don't reflect the information of this customer to SLM. So if a BRM and SLM relationship is not created well enough, it is impossible for you to meet the expectation of your customers, regardless you made the right decisions, you made the right somehow financial debts. All right, so we can continue about another relation, which is the supplier, because as I told you, some of the parts are run not by you but your suppliers. But of course, if any supplier of yours is failed, or your relationship between suppliers failed, then this means that you are failed in the face of the customer. So you have to create, let me see, this kind of relationship between your internal customers and external customers. Your internal and external suppliers. So your relationship between your internal suppliers or your internal teams has to be managed by an OLA, operational level agreement. For example, your database, so your SLA is somehow exists with the combine of one or more of this OLA and one or more of this underpinning contracts. So remember the ATM service you are providing. In order to provide the ATM service, you need the, by the way, I'm sorry for this one, it stays as Turkish. Anyhow, if you are going to provide an ATM money delivery service to your customer, and you need a money delivering company, you need a mechanical technical service company, you have to make them contracts, and after that you need your database team is running smoothly, you need your network team is running smoothly, you need your application level teams are running smoothly. So when they commitment to you as the provider or the manager of all these guys, you somehow put all these commitments under each other, and as a total you create an SLA to give the services to your customers. But in here, the important part is, of course, the total capability of these guys has not to be more than the commitment of yours to your customer. For example, you said that I'm going to solve a problem of yours within 2 hours, okay? Let's say 10 hours. Okay, and the related parties in here about the service, because you know who are related with them based on the service planning we spoke before. Your database, network, security, and data center teams are here, 4 teams, and 3 suppliers are here in order to make the services running. So you have 10 hours to fix any problem, all right? So one of the customers raised a problem to you, and you send it to your first team, which is database, and after 9.5 hours, they decided the problem is not about them. So you got just 30 minutes for all these parties are going to take the same problem, evaluate it, and decide who is going to fix it. And of course, it's impossible for you to meet the expectation of a customer. So please write it down, not the solution time limit, but also the decision-making time limit to your agreements as well. Okay, just make a practice. The expectation of the customer is taking money from the ATM, and the risk is not, let's say, not solving their problem if the ATM is run out of banknotes, and your risk is not knowing the exact problem or not solving the exact problem within the time limit. So your risk level is going to be high, and the resolution you are going to write down is create an effective OLA, an underpinning contract relationship. And here we got the customer, we got your internal service providers, internal teams, we got your suppliers. So service level manager is here standing from the beginning and the end of this relationship. The relations between the supplier is handled by supplier management process, and the relation between customer and internal teams and providers is handled by DRM. So these guys are always speaking with SLM. So they are internal or external contracts and commitments are in total created a total value chain for your customers. Okay, so let's talk about request management. The first thing you have to know is if you are requesting something, then you are asking a change. So all the requests are basically changes, because if you are requesting a mouse, then this means you want to change your status from a user with no mouse to with a mouse. Or you are going to ask a access to, let's say, Facebook in order to conduct any marketing operations. So you are asking, changing your status from a guy by not having an access to Facebook to a guy who's accessing a Facebook. So this is a change. Okay, so if you are going to run a change, you have to, based on the change management process, you have to create a change flow. Also, you have to create a change advisory board for these changes to be approved. You have to create a backup plan if the deploy of this change is going to fail. Now think about this one. For a change request for having a mouse, you have to complete all these phases, and the customer of yours is going to be furious, I think, why you are making me to wait 10 days just to get me a damn mouse. So the changes with high probability but low risk, because asking a mouse or opening a port for Facebook can be happening very frequently, and it's not going to make any harm to your central systems or any applications or something like that. So if a change is both having high probability and low risk, then this can be named as a service request. So this request can create another special flow. If anyone gives a mouse, then let's give them. Anyone asks access to Facebook, okay, you just send it to the security team and let's say, okay, but you have to make your rules. We are not going to open Facebook to positions director or under, or we are not going to give mouse to a personnel, no more 3 mouses in a year. So if they are somehow not compliant with these rules, please reject this request for change. Of course, request for a basic request, but if they are meeting these rules, please execute this change as soon as possible as a request. And of course, this is also asking for you to get a solid working service management application, a solid working configuration item, because, for example, the number of mouse is asking by the same person is also a configuration item. If it exceeds 3, then based on your rule, you are not giving them the 4th mouse in the same year for this customer, but you have to know how you are going to feed the number of mouse requests from the same customer. So plan new or change services. It is also another. It is also says that a relationship between customer, SLM, BRM, and all the suppliers has to be created in order to plan a service, change a service, or retire a service. So retiring a service is also a change because you are changing the status of a service from active to retired. So these parts, operation parts, and the guys in the call center, and the guys in the database admins, and the guys in the management of your supplier for network services, and also the BRM, and also the customer, all has to sit around the table, not the physical table, of course, this is a process. And they have to decide how this service will be handled. So if it is not planned that the customer is asking a service has to be run 99.5% available on 24/7 basis, but if you didn't ask your, let's say, outsourced management guy to speak with the technical operations supplier of yours, maybe they are going to say it's impossible for us to go certain parts of the country because it's too far away, or if you want to go there within time, you have to pay us more, which is going to increase the price of the service itself. So you all have to keep in touch between these related parties in order to make the service, making everyone functionally and financially happy. And also cooperating, agreeing, and cooperation between these parties are important. For example, retiring a service. Do you ever think about why Microsoft is sending both Microsoft Edge and Internet Explorer at the same time as an internet interface? They want to retire it, but it is impossible for them to convince their customers, because if you retire the Internet Explorer, which you want to retire and which you know the shortcomings, that's why you created at the same time Microsoft Edge. If you retire it, this means you are going to make trillions and trillions of web services working around the world, is making them obsolete. So you cannot agree with your customer, so it's impossible for you to change the status of this service of yours from active to retired. That's a good example for me, I think. So the incident management, it has to be written down by, which says how you are going to handle the incidents, how these incidents are going to notified by you. Is it notified by the customers by a certain call center number, or is it notified by your monitoring tools automatically? If it is going to be, I don't know, open instance by your field repair company. Maybe the customers are calling them and they are going to call you. Maybe your systems are going to be integrated. So a policy should be written how you are going to take the record of these incidents, how you are going to classify them based on the risk it's creating, based on the the functionality or the users the incident is happening. So you are going to send it to your related let's say internal or external teams to solve it, because when you are planning your service, you create the service plan, you create the service card. Let's say we talked about a couple of presentation slides before. So you know that you got 10 different teams, internal and external. 6 of them are working for the ATM service and 4 of them are working for your pizza service. So if you get a instance from your pizza service, you know that to which teams you are going to make this incident working around and how you are going to handle it, in which order these teams are going to handle it, the time limits of these internal and external parties to make a decision or create a solution for this instance, all has to be written down as incident management. And the incidents, you don't know how to solve it, or the incidents, you know that it is happening quite a lot and frequently, this can cause a problem. So a problem, you have to handle problems in two different information, but in three different ways. The first information you are going to handle the problem with is your workaround. You can create a temporary solution. For example, if you cannot send an email, please let us to provide you a telephone service. I know it is not the same thing, but at least we are making you keep in touch, not sending attachments, but just you can speak with. This is a workaround for us. So let us create a solution. Or the most common workaround is to reset the systems, of course. Okay, and second information you can use in order to eliminate a problem is the root cause analysis and the solving operations of it. All the actions needed for problem resolution shall be managed by the change management policy, it says at the very bottom of the slide. Because if you found a root cause, then this means there is something wrong with the whole design of the service. So if something is wrong with the design, something has to be different in order to solve this problem happening again and again. And if you are going to have a different architecture or a different design, then you are going to change the previous design. So this is going to be done by change management system. But you remember that I told you that there are three information types in order to handle the problem management, but there are three ways to execute it. The third one is using the workaround as a permanent solution. So for example, if your customer is not using your ATM machines at the very late hours of the day, let's say 3 and 4 a.m., between 3 and 4 a.m., and you know that every time a specific same incident is happening and the solution is first making solution options are one, making a huge financial investment and changing your way of doing business in your infrastructure, or two, write down or just reset the systems. So resetting the system is a workaround, but it is working and it is efficient and it's financially feasible. And if you write a scheduled task for resetting the related system between the time of 3 and 4 a.m., it is not going to relate your customers. So in this case, if all these prerequisites are working, if it is feasible, if it can be done periodically, if it is easy to apply, and if it is not, the most important part, if it is not affecting the happiness of your customer, then make your workaround as the permanent solution, it's fine. So problem management leads us to our today's, I think, last slide, the known error database. So known error database is if somehow you trying to facing an incident again and again and again, and you don't know how to handle it, you have to keep all records to your incidents. And when you create a database of these records, you can create sensible relations between them, logical relations between them, and you can make it for you to be more agile, more fast, more resilient, and more financially effective. So what is a known error database? A known error database is some kind of, let's say, an internal wiki or internal Google in order to your internal or external supporting teams can reach the related solution of the problem as soon as possible. So at the very beginning of your service is running, two services, let's say the two most irrelevant services you can find in the entire world, also our subject of our webinar right now is the pizza service and the ATM service. So you got different incidents in a very given period of time, and you don't know which incident is related for ATM and which is related for the pizza. So you may be sending not giving cash withdrawal problem to your pizza cook, or you're sending the problem about not having a sausage to your pizza to your database team, and this makes you to both wasting your precious time between the unrelated teams and making a bad image to your customers. So after that, you got this data convert information. So you say the incidents, the purple incidents are about the ATM service and the green ones are about pizza service. So when our call center gets a purple incident, then send it to the first guys at the service plan about the ATM service. And if you got a incident about the green one, then send it to the first guy in the service plan for pizza service. So you are going to save some time, also making you're going to save some people or save some image in the eyes of the customer. So after that, you start to ask the right questions. So for example, the ATM service problems can be solved by your database team, your network team, your I don't know, the application team, or your fiber internet provider, or your on-field mechanical support provider. So you start to ask questions and see if any problem has nothing to do with the database team or has nothing to do with, so the same incident is happening, is going to database team, going to network team, going to I don't know, the application team, and at last it seems that the same incident is only become solved by your network team, your let's say network team. I forgot if I mentioned network team before. I'm not sorry for being tired at the very last slide of this presentation. So when you create the connections and after you analyze the connection, the instant records, you create the insight which says, okay, we got two different incidents can be happened in the ATM service, but if this one is happening, then do not make it go all the related in or out, internal or external parties, just send it directly to the network service, because we know that this one is solved only by network service based on our previous records. So send it directly to them, so save some money, save some time, and make a better image in the eyes of our customers. And at the very last minute, maybe you can create a wisdom for writing down scheduled jobs when this instance happening, a scheduled job is running, and you are not wasting any time, you are not wasting any people, you are not wasting any money. Maybe you can open a self-service portal to your customers, like forget your password thing. But again, everything is based on a data collected. So this is the evolution of a data to your wisdom based on a known error database point of view. So, okay, thank you for you to being us, and also sorry for, again, this Turkish, it says 10 questions. So you can find our telephone number and my email address in here. Sorry for not replying if any questions about this presentation in real time at the Q&A window of Zoom, because based on the time limits and the number of attendees, it's impossible for me to answer all your questions in live manner. So please do not hesitate to write or call us or CFA certification for any more questions. And have a nice day. Have a healthy day, surely, especially in these days. And take care. Bye-bye.